everybody. This is Nathaniel Provencio. I am in sunny Syracuse, New York. What's up? And I've got with me Dr. Neil Gupta. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. It's a little dark over here now. It's actually really good weather for December.
Yeah,
But life is good over here in Ohio.
I love it, man. Now, you are the superintendent of Oakwood Schools outside of Dayton. How long have you been the suit, man? What's up?
Yeah, I can't. It's lovely. Like last weekend, I had somebody that one of the community members came up to me and said that Are you the new superintendent? And I said, listen, I love that you said new. I love because I could use that as an excuse at times. Say I'm the new guy,
Yeah.
but I did complete a year last year, and I'm in my whatever fourth month this year,
Oh,
fifth month this
wow.
year. It's so a year and a half. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Well, that's awesome, man. I've kind of like, with the whole world of social media, your advocacy for leadership and like your thought process and like I see you all over the place. And when my partner and I, Eric, Dr. Worster, were looking for candidates to come on the show, and we're like, who do we want to pick the brains of, right? And we're going through of everybody, and we're like, this Neil Gupta guy, man, I got to meet this cat. And I've my work takes me all over the place, but for some reason, not to Dayton, Ohio. I think I've been everywhere else in the universe, except I've been to Sao Paulo more than I've been to Dayton, Ohio, man. So I got to get up there. It's like, and from what I understand, I was doing some facts. George Carlin, the famous comedian, is from Dayton, Ohio. What else do I know about Dayton? I don't know. Home of aviation, right? There's some kind of aviation.
Yeah, so like we can't call ourselves the birth of aviation, believe it or not. North Carolina has that, but
That's right.
Oakwood is actually has the home of the Wright brothers house. It's
Oh,
actually in our
like the
city.
bicycle shop or something is there?
It's not that. I mean, I'm talking about the actual home,
The
like
home.
the actual home. Yeah, it's cool. It is. It's
That's
neat.
pretty neat. I gotta check that out. I've been to that Wright brothers thing in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's like sand dunes and like these little like thorn things that if you step on them, you're pretty much dead. So yeah, it's an interesting place. Interesting place. So Oakwood is it sounds like an absolute beautiful place. I mean, I was looking up some demographics. I mean, it's a pretty high performing school district, man. So tell me a little bit about Oakwood.
Yeah. So let me paint this picture for you. So first of all, from a size of the community standpoint or a city standpoint,
Mm,
the city is 2.2 square miles. So
wow.
first, like pause and like I know sometimes numbers hit you fast. 2.2 square miles is this city, and we've got about just a little bit around 2,000 students. And
Wow, that's fascinating.
so also there are only two school districts in the state of Ohio that don't have buses. One of them is on an island, but on an island. So
Hmm.
obviously, no buses there needed. And then us, we don't have buses. So
Wow.
just because it's tight knit, so it's a walking community. Um, so that the students every day, this healthy, cool. When you come to visit, you're gonna have to get up early because you're gonna come right
Let's
at
do it.
school arrival, because the most beautiful thing in the world is when the kids are just walking to school. Parents are with them, grandparents are with them, whoever it is, neighborhood like are walking together, sort of thing, into this school. The
Yeah.
vibe is amazing, and so right outside of Dayton, Ohio, there is no McDonald's. There's no. I was trying to explain that to my dad.
That works. I like that.
Like it's very very residential. We've got a grocery store. We've got things like
Mhm.
that. And we'll hit some pastry places. There's some phenomenal pastry places
Oh, I
around.
like that.
So we'll hit that. But it just kind of has that great vibe to it. And so people, if they decide they want to come to Oakwood or to Dayton, Oakwood
Yeah.
is a destination that many people will frequent. Look at the test scores; they're very very high off the charts.
Yeah.
We have iconic facilities. They're the iconic buildings. The community decided that they wanted to keep these buildings. Some people have said they look like Hogwarts from the
That's
outside,
pretty cool.
and
Yeah.
they've been beautifully maintained, and the community just loves them. Our kids love them, and it shows just how well we preserve the traditions, and yet at
Yeah.
the same time, and I know we're going to get into this a little bit more of like still pushing for the future, and
Yeah.
so we've got a staff that just wows me every day. I don't know, like there are times I'm going to say this. There are times
Mm.
where I just want to like not throw down the towel to like quit, but throw down the towel just to say, can we take a break? Can we take a timeout? And it's so awesome because I'm exhausted, and
Yeah.
the staff, because the staff are just running. They are doing so many things in the classroom, outside the classroom, above and beyond. It's just unbelievable. I can't even keep up with. Part of the job I think I have is to kind of help spotlight them, to
Yeah.
help get them the resources, and then really to get out of their way. And it really
Sure.
is that job for me, is just to make sure that they're put on that platform and that pedestal so that they can do their jobs properly.
Dude, you got the best gig in the country.
I do. I do. Funny body.
I know. Yeah, we'll keep it the best
Yeah,
best secret in America, right? So, how many total elementary schools, middle schools, high
sure.
school, probably?
So we've got a kindergarten only building.
Mm-hmm.
We've got two elementaries that are K6, and then one six
Right.
preschool, and then the junior high and high school are connected in the same building.
Gotcha.
That's another unique, cool thing. They are not quarantines and sectioned off. That the students integrate together.
Yeah.
And again, it is what it is here, and the kids just are aware of it, do it, and it's a beautiful thing just to see seventh graders interacting with upperclassmen, and the upperclassmen are taking care of the junior high students. There's
Yeah.
great mentoring that happens. There's some great opportunities for students to take advanced courses, and it just happens right in that same building.
Yeah. Well, I'm sold. I'm going to convince my wife to
That's
go
right.
to move to Dayton, man. Let's do it.
Yeah.
As long as the winters are okay, I'm okay. You know what I mean?
So far, so good. So far,
Yeah.
so good.
Hey, man, global warming, baby. Bring it. Bring it. Let's have some mild winter. So you've got an interesting job, man. So you've got this, you've inherited, you're now the CEO, if you will, of this outstanding school district. Upper middle class, right? Upper middle class school district, high performing. I am always fascinated with how superintendents, how school leaders, when they work in a very high performing school district, how do you continuously promote growth? How do you continuously promote innovation when there's no need to grow, when there's no need to innovate? Look, brother, we got a good thing. Don't be asking me to do all this stuff, right? Don't be initiating me stuff that, you know what I mean? We're good. Leave me alone. But that's not really our craft, right?
Right. You're right, and that's it. I think it comes down to, I mean, I've got an amazing team, our administrative team, just like I'm bragging on our staff being amazing, and they go above and beyond all the time, because again, they're not saying, gosh, we've done this, let's sit back and we'll just kind of like, put this on cruise control. They're constantly pushing the envelope, and so our administrative team is the same way. So a lot of it is you hire well, and then you kind of create that overarching vision, and then these are go-getters and self-starters. My administrative team is phenomenal. They're constantly coming every day, rejuvenated, ready to go. They're leaders at the state level, and they're kind of pushing the envelope of, hey, we're doing a good job, and yet let's keep moving forward. And so you've got to create that culture. It was created before I got here, so I don't want to say I've done that. I've got to just carry the ball, and that happens. But it also can't rest on one person's shoulder either. Everybody kind of has to be in that same spirit of, we're good, and we're great, and we're going to continue to kind of be better as we go through that process. A lot of it comes down to, you have to make sure you're also like leaving the city, that 2.2 square miles. You can easily sit back and say we're good. But one of the things that I'm kind of realizing my role is so you kind of make, maybe you check some boxes on this set of criteria.
Yeah.
But then you start going, okay, now it's time to find that next group of people to run with, just sort of things. So, okay, we've benchmarked against them and we're doing pretty good. Now we got to find that next group, and then we've got to blow our minds. And so staying at that national level, you and I kind of had this conversation right before we hit the record button. But if I just stay in kind of my own area and I don't read and I don't attend conferences, and if I'm not connecting with other people from other parts of the United States to say, we can do more. We can do more for our kids. And we've got to be in that place, or else, and if we're not kind of, looking farther out there, or realizing, like, sometimes I go, well, that can't be done. Like, you can't break a minute mile. That can't be done. And then somebody
Hmm.
breaks the 4-minute mile and you go, oh, okay,
Oh.
I can do that. So
Mm.
I think the same thing is I sometimes will sit back and go, we're doing the best we can. And then you kind of go to that conference, you sit down with somebody else and you start asking questions, and all of a sudden you find out, man, we got some work to do. And you come back and you share that vision, ask some questions, and let your team go.
Yeah, man, that's fascinating. Like I remember talking with a leader, superintendent. He was at a smaller district, and they had done relatively well. They were really growing. Their test scores were really shining. They had their attendance rates were really growing. Their graduation rates were at a respectable rate. And and he had a conversation like the school board was like, "Hey, we're good, we're good," and he's like, "No, because we still have 10% of our kids that are dropping out. We still have 30% of our kids that aren't reading on grade level. We have our pass advanced scores suck. We're not good enough." And they're like, "What else?" It's like, that's my job. That's why you hired me. The school board has an employee of one. Do you want me to be complacent, or do you want me to keep innovating? So let's take an elementary school. You pick one of those two elementary schools. What's their goal? And how do you as a superintendent support that school leader to support their teachers with that goal? So what's next, man? What's next on that list?
So, gosh, so we look at our 3 buckets. We put together our mission statement. We've got vision statements.
Mm,
We've got one on high quality learning. We want to make sure, obviously, first and foremost, learning is the things that has to happen.
yeah.
Our second vision statement is safe, secure, and welcoming environment. We want to make sure that we look at the physical safety of our schools, and that it's safe for our students to be at. But then there's that social emotional wellness piece that comes
Mm,
along with it that's captured in that vision statement. And then the third one is effective and transparent operations. So we look at our facilities, our finance, our communications, that we want to make sure
mhm.
we're engaging with our community, two-way communication systems. So those are the 3 broad umbrellas, like that
Yeah.
me as the superintendent is trying to work with our board of education for, like, there's a visual of all these arrows that are going in different directions, or
Right.
these arrows going in the same direction. The goal is, first of all, going, okay, could everybody say that same thing? Could we all say that those are our 3 main things?
Sure. Sure.
Let me now answer your question and flip back to the high quality learning to say, right now, first and foremost, our teachers have gone through a lot at the elementary level
Mm,
in the state of Ohio, and I think other states too. There's
mhm,
been a big push on science of reading, and
mhm.
so literacy has always been around. I think as far
Yeah.
as that we're always trying to get better at of how we understand the brain and how it works for students to be able to decode, for them to first of all learn to read, and then read to learn.
Yeah.
And again, in those formative years, it is there. So we have some resources that we had just adopted this year, and so we're going through that process of kind of making sure that we're doing full implementation. And I'll tell
That's
you what,
great.
it's a game
Oh,
changer
absolutely.
to see. Previously I used to be a high school math teacher before I got into administration.
Yeah.
So I in other districts that I've worked in, I've worked in curriculum, but mostly at the secondary level. It has been amazing to really get more of an idea of just that process of how teachers are overtly doing 1,000 things a minute that I don't think they even know what they're doing, because it's just seamless. Like, I don't, when I
Right.
say that, what I'm saying is it's just so natural for them. But I am like, if I almost like was able to take some kind of x-ray on these kids' brains, I'm sure it's just lighting up like
That's
crazy.
awesome. That's
They're just
awesome.
they're just kind of, making connections, talking, reinforcing constantly. And the difference in the resource that we have is, it doesn't just kind of end in the reading block. Like, the reading
Hmm.
block doesn't just end there. Then when they go to the science block, this resource carries back to that literacy and kind of
Yeah.
strengthens it. And I've not seen that before previously,
Mm.
or at least done well. And I'm seeing it done well, and that our teachers are just, where I would kind of think that they're kind of like ready to get frustrated. I would expect them to, be tired. No, they're
No.
so energized. I think there was a summer meeting of professional development, and our curriculum director over
Hmm.
the summer said, "Hey, we got some teachers that are over there. If you could stop by and maybe just kind of like recognize that they came in over the summer." I'm expecting 10. I think there
Yeah.
were 60 teachers like sitting in that room. And it was just like, in the summer, you're here. This is amazing.
Oh, wow.
And that's just them. That's just them on a regular basis.
Neil, that's outstanding, man. I have been, as I'm listening to you, I'm kind of like processing and like, and I am dying to know your thoughts on this question as a superintendent. You mentioned about like science of reading. There has been a massive, massive, and a lot of money spent, ESSER funds and some of those other things on these HQI, whatever, I'm going to throw another acronym, high quality instructional materials, i.e. science of reading work, right?
Yep. Yep.
But you could take any curriculum, in my opinion, and put it in the hands of a high impact teacher, and they're going to do great with it. Anything, right? You take that same curriculum, put it in the hands of a novice teacher or someone who's not there for the right reasons, and the curriculum is going to be a disaster. And I'm always interested in that. I'm curious what that looks like in Oakwood.
Yeah.
Fidelity to stuff or integrity to our staff.
Right. And no, I'll use a different phrase, but you're saying it the same way as far as like, and I've got to be careful of that too, especially in my role,
Sure.
in this shifting role of like this idea about like tight and loose coupling. Like, if I were to kind of talk about that, and there's all this research behind it, but you'll get this concept quickly. You could be so tight that you're like joysticking. I use that phrase, you're joysticking your team. Like I've seen coaches out there, soccer coaches out there, and they're screaming it on the sidelines, like kid go left and kid go right, and you're supposed to stand here and you're supposed to stand there. And the kids are just like basically like almost kind of like foosball. They're just kind of being, the coach is controlling them. That's too tight. And this goes back to what you're saying as far as if you're dictating a resource that kind of like makes it robotic. There's that science of learning, but then there's also like the art of teaching side kind of that has to be commingled with it. And I think you and I would both agree where that art kind of piece comes into it has to be, you've got to allow that teacher to have that flexibility. And so there's that loose coupling that comes into it to say, you give that guardrails, give that structure, but don't be so dictatorial that you create that you don't have that flexibility for the teacher to be able to adapt. I've seen it where like, I'm sorry, we're on day 2. We've got to move to day 2, and we forget day 1, and the kids go, but I don't got this. I don't know, but
I don't care.
I get to day 2. and now we've lost our minds. And we think that like we built that based on the right thing because we thought tight was what was important and needed. Because I'll be honest with you, there's fear. Most times tight coupling comes out of fear. So it's one of those where, our kids are going to be a disaster if I don't kind of, show that there's this documentation that has to happen and this rigidity has to be there. And so I'm going to create this thing versus like, I've got to entrust that our staff know what they need to do. When you give them the right resources, collective efficacy, then they'll be able to kind of, manage and move on from there.
So much of good leadership doubles down to systems management, total process, total quality management. We were chatting a little bit about your doctorate, and you mentioned Malcolm Baldrige.
Yeah.
Man, I love me some Baldrige. I don't know what happened to old Malcolm. You never hear him talk about nothing anymore, man. But I want to pick your brain about Baldrige and tell our listeners about what that was all about. I haven't talked about Baldrige stuff in a long time, but like Peter Drucker, Malcolm Baldrige, total quality management. We'll do a little Kaizen. Let's talk a little bit about your passion for Baldrige and explain what the heck that is, man. I love it.
I mean, it came, parts of it obviously came from the, business sector of, continuous improvement processes and practices. And maybe that was where the math teacher in me kind of was just like, man, it's just like it's a gigantic math problem of how do you take a group of people through kind of building a widget is one thing, but getting students to learn, how do you bring people through that process? And then how do you kind of go, into that? If it's a textbook resource adoption, if it's, opening a new building, if it's closing a building, if it's, doing all sorts of things, you have to kind of go through some kind of way that helps to kind of manage through the different practice and steps like that. And so, so I just became enamored in it. I gobble up everything I can gobble up on. Um, this was the 2000 or like, early 2000s that I
Yeah.
did the Baldrige, the dissertation on that. The district that I was in was doing some heavy work in that area. For me, the evolution of that work for me kind of came into some of the design thinking that is out there, and IDEO and some of the companies now that are kind of working in that space. That's kind of where I continue to land on that. And it seems to really fit a human-centered design approach, and it kind of fits from an empathy standpoint.
Oh yeah.
The work when you think about the idea of innovation, when you're really trying to solve problems that haven't even been, are unsolvable, haven't even been thought yet.
Yeah.
From a design thinking approach, kind of is that next evolution that I'm constantly looking forward to get more information and ideas from.
I remember I was introduced to Baldrige and that kind of systems thinking around that time, like early 2000s. I think when I was a first year, second year teacher, and like I remember our school district took a trip to like these different Baldrige award schools, right? They were because you could get an award for being that. Yeah, there you go. I think
Yeah.
we were in like Brazosport, Texas, or something like that, and like they were like crushing it with their Baldrige practices. And I was very enamored with that work, and that work, Neil, brought me into learning about professional learning communities. Rick DeFore's work, and I was totally then blown away by that work because I was a student of Baldrige tools first, and I just remember just like you pouring myself into that mindset, like where does this come from? And you probably know this, but it stems from World War II, and I love this story. So banter with me with this story. So like and I'm probably going to screw up most of these facts, but just bear with me here. But like World War II, so many of the men, right, were overseas, Japan, Italy, fighting, Germany fighting, right? So that left a void of the workforce in the factories. And a lot of the management who were the leaders of these organizations were fighting. So you had CEOs and like with companies that had no workforce. And so they said, we got to train our women to come in. And they were very lean, right? Exceedingly lean were their workforce. They didn't have managers to lean on to improve their products. And they were also retooling because then it was all about the war effort. And so they hired all these economists to come in and start working with them to help be more efficient. And so they said, listen, we don't have managers telling everyone top down what to do. It's got to be middle out. So we have to empower our rank and file to make these decisions and be very lean and be innovative because we just can't do it. And they were outstanding in doing it. When they entrusted their employees, they were more effective and more efficient. And they were able to turn out these tanks and planes and bullets and everything. And it probably led to the war effort. Japan's decimated. All their factories are decimated. So these same economists then go over to Japan and start doing the exact same thing. And that's where you get like Toyota and you get these types of things. Fascinating, right? And I think that sometimes we need to be, especially leaders, that we need to be student of the history of management. Your Jim Collins, your Peter Druckers, your Malcolm Baldrige. Are your principals now learning about this stuff? Are they familiar with this type of work, man? That's fascinating for me.
I don't know. Because I can't say that I got it. Like I got it through my master's. Well, through the district that I was in at the time was part of that Baldrige. And then it was just me kind of picking up the books and kind of, and I think like, again, you and I were having these conversations about like, gosh, like through social media, it's surprising you and I haven't met yet, but
right,
we must run in the same circles. Well, I think that there's the crazies out there. I call us the crazies because like after the workday is over, like you do this, constantly. You're doing podcasts constantly, sort of thing. Why do you do it? Like, what's the purpose of it? Sort of thing. Because it fills your bucket, and like there's some kind of itch you're scratching, and it just kind of helps you to be a better leader. And I think it's the same thing of like the ones that kind of go, okay, I'm collecting the paycheck versus I'm going to devour everything I can find out about it, and I'm going to kind of keep moving. And so, I don't know if there's been any overt, whatever class or whatever that's out.
Yeah.
But to your point, like I remember like watching this video snippet of Peter Drucker for the first time. Like I was in maybe a doctoral court, And I was just like, oh my gosh, he's blowing my mind. And like,
Yeah.
when you talked about the DeFores of like, okay, there's these contemporaries right now that are just out here and
Mm.
they're blazing trails, and like, are people even aware? Like,
Yeah.
I was at a conference. It was fun. It was cool. I was at an ASCD conference a number of years ago, and there was these college students, pre-service college students. They were, pre-service teachers, and we were all getting ready to get on the metro bus to go to the convention center,
Hmm.
and they were like looking through the pamphlet of like, which breakout session should we go to? They were looking at the title. This is interesting.
Mm.
They're looking at the title, and they go, "What do you think I should take?" And I said, "Well, here's the funny thing. I don't look at the title. I look at the speaker.
Yeah. Right.
Like I look at the speaker. Like, for example, and still today, like Doug Reeves. Like, I'm gonna devour everything I can find. It like, if he's speaking at the conference, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sit on the floor. If there's no room, I'm gonna sit on the floor.
That's right.
Then they go, well, what's he talking about? I go, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And so I think so. I gave him so it was so funny. Like, I gave him a list of like, here are the 20 speakers that are going to be at this ASCD conference. Go to anything that they're at.
I
And
love it.
again, you have to kind of be around the people, especially like you're saying, the pioneers
Yeah.
that have helped to kind of shape how we're supposed to really learn and think, and how the brain works and how systems are set up.
I agree, man. The best educators are the best learners, right? The best leaders are the best learners. And, it's like, I'm over here in Syracuse, I'm traveling around, like I could be eating pizza or doing whatever, but I think, Neil, it stems from insecurity. And I never feel like I know enough.
That's
And
it.
I'm like, man, it's like, maybe when I watch Schindler's List, the last scene of Schindler's List. You ever see that movie?
Yeah.
Oh man, where he's just like, if only I just could do one more thing, just one more thing. I always feel like there's something else that I haven't done. And like we were talking about, like, why do you spend all this free time podcast? I don't want to have any endorsements. I don't want any, all I'm doing is just learning from people so I can pay that forward.
Right.
You mentioned about people that want to get paychecks. There's three types of leaders: paycheck leaders, passionate leaders,
Mm.
and purpose leaders.
Well, I like that. Ooh.
Yeah, I was thinking about this on the plane, with all my delays. I'm like, what kind of leaders did I work with today, at the school system? What kind of leaders did I, and I was thinking about these folks, and they're all great people, right? Every leader does. I don't disparage anybody, but there are some educators out there that just want that paycheck, right? They were okay teacher. They wanted that little next step. They got to take care of their families. They got to do what they got to do. It's those paycheck leaders, and paycheck leaders tend to hire paycheck teachers, Then you got passionate leaders. Like, they love the craft. They love it. Like, they love the idea of it, and they'll do what they need to do. They're passionate about the work. They've always been passionate about it. I'm passionate about playing the drums. It ain't my purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love music. I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about Netflix, but it ain't my purpose. Then you got purpose educators, right? That's those purpose-driven leaders. They're the ones that are always trying to seek out the best and brightest to be able to fill their cup so that they can be the best and brightest for others, and they can recruit that. I get it. I know education's hard. It's grueling, but like, can you imagine in our district if we had purpose-driven people from sub to soup?
Hiring somebody that's going to be in front of 25, students, or 125 students, whatever, and then we're going to pay them up to about $3 million. If you think about it, it's
wow, that's a great viewpoint.
Over the course of 30 years, sort of thing, it's a $3 million investment. Thousands of kids are going to be, subjected to this person. And you look back and go, you've only set up like half-hour interviews and that's it. Or you never did reference checks, and you've never asked the critical questions, and you've never really taken the time. And so there is here, I would say, here in this district, that is the one thing that I would say, like, we, from a DNA culture standpoint, from superintendent, assistant, like administrative team, principals, staff, even community, there's an expectation you take your time to hire well, and that becomes the most important thing in the world.
Listen, man, you that's one of the things that I also love about you and why I wanted to connect with you is because you're connecting with all kinds of leaders. You are a purpose-driven superintendent. You're a purpose-driven educator. What are you reading? Who are you following? Like who's inspiring you to be a little bit better? I always ask that question, man, because I know you connect with a lot of folks, bro. I know you do.
Yeah. So I'm actually really excited. This is the month of December. So whenever you're watching this, this is the month of December. I'll be heading to FETC, the Florida Education Tech Conference, in January in Orlando.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, like, again, this is the idea of like, and it's not a bandwagon thing. I'm talking about like I'm not jumping on the artificial
Oh,
intelligence.
sure.
I'm talking about how do we strategically really use it and understand it, use it as educators, use it as we train our students for the future.
Yeah.
Uh, AJ Giuliani is one of the keynotes. He came to our district. I heard him at a conference back in the spring, and when I got done, I was just like, we got to get him to our district, and he was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
And so I'm gobbling up everything that he's got. Sabit Kidwai, she's in like Abu Dhabi right now.
Sure.
She's out of California, but she's somebody that's doing a lot of work with artificial intelligence, and she's doing a lot of work with design thinking. And
Mhm.
so I'm just trying to learn as much as I can from her to the point where, and this is kind of, I guess, kind of a coaching thing, to the point where I asked her to co-present with me.
Oh,
And
wow.
because, like, you know what it really does? It gives me a chance to learn from her.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm kind of
Absolutely.
doing that. Laura Williams is another person. She's an educator. She goes out and runs professional development. And I'll be honest with you, my game on classroom strategies is outdated, and
Mm,
how we engage kids with and students with different apps and different things that are out there.
yeah.
I'm watching her on social media. She's just killing it right now. So again, reached out to her, and gonna get to co-present with her, which is gonna be fun. So those are three people off the top of my
It's
head.
great.
What am I reading right now? We just got doing a Patrick Lencioni has a book called The Working Genius.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Six
Love
types of
Pat.
genius. So here, watch this. I got trained in it. I went ahead and said I can either bring an outside expert to come in and work with our administrative team,
Yeah.
or I can sit through the training so that I have this information so I can run the training for us. We have our administrative team is reading the book right now. We'll be getting ready to do the survey. We are
That's
really
great.
excited. I'm actually more excited that they're starting to grab onto this book and grab onto the concept. And I think it's going to bring our team closer together. Like, so the question is, is your team, if you're whatever team you own right now, are you just meeting and doing nuts and bolts, or are you
Yeah.
trying to direct and build some unity, collegiality, and get them to learn more about themselves and their leadership styles so that they can improve? And
It's awesome.
that's kind of something that we're working on right now.
Dude, I love it. Uh, Superintendents, right? Urgency, necessary. If we can focus on the necessary, the urgency will take care of itself, man. You are a learning leader. You are a purpose-driven leader, man. I love it. If I were a teacher, I'd want to work for you. If I were a principal, I'd want to work for you, man. So who knows? If I'm ever looking for a job, I got
Yeah.
you, man. If you're in
Yeah.
Oakwood, I got you, man. Hey, man, where can our listeners find your stuff, man? Where can we find all these good articles that you're writing? Like where can we find you?
Sure. Yeah. So I've got a website. You can go to farthertogether I think it's .com. So go check it out there. Have not written blogs up there in a while. Like, you can go
Sure.
find some old stuff, because in our Oakwood School District, I write blogs at least once a week, spotlight our kids and
It's
our
awesome.
different programs and things like that. So that's kind of taken a little bit more of my time and focus and energy right now, which has been beautiful. But when I get that season, maybe over winter break, another blog may post up on that farther together.
Working genius. Maybe something about working genius. You know what I
Well,
mean? So yeah, and we can
blue.
have AI kind of help us out a little bit
That's
too,
right.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
Man, what's the best place to eat? And I'm gonna ask you the last question. Best place to eat in Dayton, man. What you got to pick one. You got to pick one.
So yeah, I think it's because it's actually fond memories of the family. When I first got interviewed, got to go to Figlio's. It's an Italian restaurant, and the food is phenomenal. But I
Yeah,
think what will probably make it the permanent mainstay is because as I was kind of doing the interview process sort of thing, found that restaurant. Our family was together, so now that my two boys are gone out of the house, living their lives, whenever we come back, it kind of feels like home, a little bit of a celebration.
Big Leos, man. All right, I got to get to Dayton. Like I said, I've been all over the world. I haven't been to Dayton. I got to get there. I don't know if I've been to like Cleveland. I don't. Even, I got to just make the whole whole Ohio experience, man.
Sure.
Dr. Neil Gupta, man, you're a treasure for this profession. Keep sharing all your good stuff, man. You're a lighthouse of hope for superintendents for this country about how to do this job. So hang back with me a little bit as well, man, and we'll touch base. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to the Community Connection with Dr. Neil Gupta at farthertogether.com.